what he challenged me to do was, he said, look, what are the three things that everyone should do if they want to make a difference in this area? Like, make it simple for people. What are the three things? And I'm like, yeah, all right, it's a great ambition to have three things, but this is like, what are we going to deal with? Race in America, or the world? Centuries long issue, or 5,000 years of patriarchy, or whatever it might be. Is, well, I'm going to give you a to-do list with three items on it. That's not going to work. But what it made me realize is there are actually three areas that everyone can remember if you want to make a difference. And when you ask, because you're not sure how to make the difference, which is fine, you ask, what should I do? The answer lies in these three I's. Always, again and again, come back to these three I's. The first I is internal. You have to change the way you actually think about things and think about what DEI is. And that I put a piece on LinkedIn giving a lot more examples of what I might mean by that, on an article called Right Side of History, because I do, people want to be on the right side of history, but they're like, what do I do before breakfast? What do I do this week, to make sure that I end up on the right side of history? So the first I is internal. Change the way you're thinking about things. The second thing is interpersonal. Change your behaviors with others. And this is especially in a corporate space or an organizational space, or society at large. And the third thing is institutional. Then change the system. I think the reason DEI has failed fundamentally, and I have been part of that failure as well for the last 20 years, is because although I was always thinking about the institutional, how can I change the system? And to a large extent, I was thinking about the interpersonal behaviors, like in a company, how do you actually make the performance review system work in such a way as it's not biased? What should you be doing to change the recruiting structure so it's not biased? How are you going to measure the data so that some groups, attrition rates aren't through the roof? So in fact, it doesn't matter what you do with hiring because you're losing more people than you bring in. Like, there's all that stuff. But if you haven't changed the way people themselves internally have engaged with this issue, and that might be men in terms of what women are dealing with, it might be white people in terms of what people of color are dealing with, it might be able-bodied people like me in terms of what the disability community is dealing with, or someone like a straight person like me engaging with LGBTQ plus. Just because you're from an underrepresented group doesn't mean you don't have to change your thinking. And so what we've done there with the three I's is say, look, wherever you're coming from, wherever you are on the journey, you've got to think internal, interpersonal, institutional, and that way, holistically, we have far greater chances of success.